Welcome to Sales for Nerds. I'm your host and chief nerd, Ruben Swartz. If you started a business because you love serving clients but realized you didn't like the sales and marketing aspect of running that business so much, this is the podcast for you. Sales and marketing doesn't have to suck. It can actually be a lot of fun. And on this show, we're going to teach you how to connect instead of network, teach instead of market, help instead of sell, so you can keep serving people even while you're building your pipeline and growing your business. Now let's get to it. Today, I'm super excited to have with me Jill Lublin, who is a 25-year plus veteran of the media world. She has been on thousands of stages alongside folks like Tony Robbins, Barbara Corcoran, and Jack Canfield. She's worked with thousands of clients, implementing her signature formula for getting better media attention, more media attention. And she's also got a couple of programs, not just a media mastery intensive, but also kindness circles that we're going to get into in a second. Jill, welcome to Sales for Nerds. We are doing this. This is a unique episode. I have nothing in my glass other than coffee because of our scheduling constraints.
Thank you, Ruben. And I got my morning shake and we're all good.
All right. Well, how did you get into the world of media and PR?
I fell into it, honestly. I was actually in law school and hated that. And I thought there must be something better for my creative mind. And I actually started working in the entertainment business while I was in law school and really started a whole career in there as director of promotion and publicity at several independent record labels, and loved that, and did some artist management, and really then opened up my own PR agency. And then once I wrote my first book, Guerrilla Publicity, I thought there must be a way that we can help entrepreneurs that was where my heart lay, to really get your word out without spending a fortune. So now I created new programs, media mastery intensives, and other ways that I work with people to get publicity done and keep it focused and simple.
Well, I think that's a great point. So many small businesses, the ones that really need the publicity, think, gosh, that would be great, but that's just not for me. That's for a much bigger company. So what are some of the concepts of guerrilla publicity that small and solo business owners should know about?
Well, a couple things. One is we approach publicity using time and imagination, right? There are so many wonderful things you can do to get attention. And I call them visibility building activities, like really every week, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. And if you can't do 30, do two 15-minute segments. Focus on what can I do to create more visibility in the marketplace. And that can include everything from networking, which is important, to looking at social media and wherever you hang out. Who are the reporters who hang out there and cover your topics? I want you to look at, holidays and times of the year that would be an appropriate fit for what you're talking about, what you're promoting and selling. And then I love people to use, I like to call it everything you've got. And, that looks like my business consultant. We did great in getting her wonderful PR for communicating well in today's world. And then when Black History Month comes along, because she's a Black woman, we will do how to be a powerful Black woman and communicate well in today's times. And that is what gets her great publicity, so much so that she was featured in Black Enterprise and Essence magazine. So that's a really key point I want all of you to hear that most people miss, and it's called use everything you've got.
So, and it sounds like you're using what you've got, but you're also using kind of what's out there in the environment,
Yes.
not just doing Christmas promotion, but how what you do might tie into something uh, culturally relevant, culturally timely. Am I hearing that right?
Yes, exactly. You know, uh, Another woman of mine, she was in a media mastery. So let me give you an example. And I look across the Zoom room and I said, may I ask you what's your ethnicity? She said, I'm Filipino. Well, hashtag Stop Asian Hate was very, up. And I said to her, I know you came in here to promote your digital marketing agency, which is what she was really doing. I said, but would you be interested in more publicity? Of course, The answer is yes, because we did that using her Asian heritage, using the fact that she was under 30. Do you know what happened? We got her into the top 30 under 30 Filipino business publications, right? I mean, that was a huge win for her that actually drove a lot of business to her digital marketing agency. And guess what? She had this dream of speaking with Les Brown. And because she got so much publicity, she sent that along to him. Guess who got featured on Les Brown's stage? She did, because of her publicity. Plus, she grew her digital marketing agency with lots of leads, referrals, and clients, which is what publicity leads to.
So those are great examples. What if you don't have something that seems to tie in that directly?
So a couple things. One is go to nationaldaycalendar.com. Great resource. I'm promising you're going to find something that will tie into whatever you do. And sometimes you got to take a little bit of a contrary approach. Here's a fun one. I wrote the book, The Profit of Kindness. Random Acts of Kindness Week is in February. And you know what I do? I come on and I say, forget random acts of kindness. Let's talk about conscious acts of kindness every single day. Now, that, Ruben, seems, strange, but fun and contrary and gets people's attention. So sometimes you want to come in with a bit of a contrary approach, like my dating coach. And she also helps parents who get divorced take good care of their children. Well, for Valentine's Day, we do a story called How to Fall Out of Love. Well, everyone else is doing the other side of it. She gets a ton of publicity. So I really want to expand your minds today as you're listening for how could you get different kinds of publicity? How could you work yourself into the media so that the media's talking about you? Because here's the good news. Once you're in the media, you know what? You control the message. That's good news.
Well, and I like what you say about having a contrary opinion or an opinion that stands out. It's sort of like Seth Godin's purple cow. And I think there's so many people who have interesting perspectives. If you kind of corner them at the bar and they start talking about what they really think, you're like, wow, that's amazing. But if I go to your website, it sounds like everybody else. And if you have that different perspective, something that not necessarily everyone wants to hear, but their audience wants and needs to hear, that's what's really valuable. Now, assuming you have that and you've tied it into the what was that, National Day calendar?
Nationaldaycalendar.com.
Okay, that's awesome. We'll make sure there's a link to that in the show notes. I can't wait to check that out. You got some story. How do you actually go from I have the idea, I think this is really interesting, people should hear it, to this is actually in the media somewhere?
So part of it is target who you want to reach. I mean, I'll tell most small business owners, you better be going after the local business journal, actually in your market. People forget that, in your market is your ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and other independents, plus the business journal, the daily paper, and sometimes other, I'll call them special interest magazines. And so you want to be targeting directly into your lovely your geographic region, let's say it that way. I think that's a great way to get press, and frankly the media loves interviewing people right in their marketplace. Yes, so that's a key. And then you want to create a press release and put it so that it's 4 paragraphs. It's real simple. We have actually lots of press release examples in Guerrilla Publicity if you'd like to see it. And also, connect to me. Happy to provide templates for you. The point is that you want to be simple in your communications, never complicated. And this something is, Ruben, people overcomplicate things.
Hmm.
And one of my, if I could wave a white flag and tell you really important things, and that is keep your message simple. Keep your message simple. I'll tell you honestly, I represented people lots of times throughout my career that when they first told me what they do, I'm like, I don't get it. And
Hmm.
see, if I don't get it, nobody else is going to get it because I know all of you, know everything you do. But the truth is, you've got to learn how to promote it in, I'll call it 3 easy, simple messages. And that's what you're telling people, like, here's what to do to have fill in the blank.
Hmm.
Should have simple things that you're communicating. Those go into a press release and then go out to the target media And then there's follow up. Like, don't be sending something out and hoping the media is going to bang down your door. It doesn't often happen a lot, only because of the sheer volume of information they get. But how you do stand out is well, follow up. In guerrilla publicity, we speak of this rule of seven. What does that mean? Seven follow ups. Now, do not be afraid of that, because the great news is it makes you stand out. It has you be the one that they go, oh, you must be committed, articulate, consistent, and persistent are the key words here. And I want you to be like a terrier, not a bulldog. And that means, yes, you connect to the reporter, you pick up the phone. Yes, let them hear your voice and speak. I sent you some information about, how to stand tall in National Hurt Your Back Day, whatever it is. I just made that up, but you see where I'm going, right? You want to be focused on the message, and you want to do it so that it's of value and benefit to their readers, viewers, and listeners. So listen to that, because that was an important point. Be of value to them. It's not about beat the chest publicity. It's about giving value and benefit to their readers and listeners. I remember with guerrilla publicity, I interviewed the editor of Entrepreneur Magazine. And of course, imagine that, all of us in Entrepreneur Magazine, that's a good thing. And she said, I don't even care how fancy the press release is or all of that. I want the value for my readers to be good, to really give them something, as Bonnie Raitt says, something to talk about.
So when we talk about press releases, are you talking about going to one of those PR newswire services and blasting it out, or are you talking about sending it individually to certain subsets or individual reporters that you've developed a rapport with, or
Well,
both?
I think a bit of both would be good. It depends, on people's budgets. I have a shortcut to PR Newswire, a colleague I use, so hit me up for that resource, a lot less expensive. But what I would say to you is target for your own list who you want to connect to. So yes, local, yes, national or international, depending on who you want to reach, based on really who's going to hire you, who's going to create and use your services. What are the CEOs that are going to use your service, for example? What are they reading, watching, and listening to? That's what you got to ask yourself.
And I think there's so many, in addition to so many days that you celebrate as weird holidays, there's also almost an infinite variety of industry publications. In a lot of
Mhm.
cases, that may be way more powerful to get you in front of your audience than being on NBC or something like that, that is going to be a general purpose story, but may not catch the attention of the people who actually need you.
Yes, yes, and I just want to say all media matters, right? All media matters. I was listening to Jack Canfield the other day, and he said, quote unquote, how we grew Chicken Soup for the Soul is we did everything we could in the area of publicity. We said yes to everything, no matter, if it seemed relevant or not. And I just really want you all to hear how important saying yes to the media is in multiple ways so that you can be counted, heard, and seen. And publicity does get you, clients and prospects and referrals, and elevates your expertise and earns the trust of the people listening and watching you.
And it sort of snowballs, right? You get not only the initial burst of traffic, but you get a link that hopefully helps your SEO. And you get to mention that you were in the media earlier. The next time you go out and pitch a story, you can already say, I've been on blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely. And let me just tell you the fact that you've been on a podcast, a newspaper, radio, TV, whatever it is, I don't care if you got one line. The reality is then you can say I've been featured in, and my consultant in Minneapolis, Minnesota, got in the Minneapolis Star Tribune, walked into a consulting engagement interview with three other people. And he said, as soon as she walked in, I Googled you. I see that you've been featured, his words, in the Minneapolis Star Tribune. She had one line. She got a $35,000 engagement, big consulting engagement over her other two, I'll call them competitors for lack of a better word. And that was because of her publicity. He already had the trust built. And
Mhm.
figured she must be good because the truth is, when media is talking about you or you're being featured, there is an immediate assumption you must be good.
Okay. Now, if people are sitting there struggling to think, gosh, maybe I don't have a unique perspective, maybe I don't have a story to share, how can they kind of tease out what they should be talking about or getting the media to interview them about?
Well, first of all, I propose that all of you have an interesting story to share. And sometimes, honestly, a third ear, another perspective is actually important so that somebody else hears what you have and who you are. And, the story under the story. I'll tell you about Ryan. He is an instructional designer, and he came to me going, I want to build my business and I need publicity. And I'm like, what's instructional design? When he told me, I said, Ryan, no offense, that's boring. We're not going to really get you much publicity on that, but tell me your story. And then I found out his story that he'd been downsized from a corporate job. He had a pregnant wife with their third kid on the way. He just started his own company. Now that was interesting because there's enough people being fired from corporate. There's a lot of people who want to start their own business. So I made him into a virtual office warrior. And the acronym for that is VOW. Ryan took a vow never to work in an office again. Let me tell you, that story is what got him into the front page of the San Francisco Business Times. That would be great. That got then picked up by Associated Press. Oh my gosh. On top of that, he got into Entrepreneur Magazine, Mac Home Journal. I mean, many places and spaces. He literally rode, I'll call it a publicity wave for 9 months, creating a story that wasn't, I opened an instructional design firm
Right.
and here's what it is. And I just want you all to hear this because the story that got him the stories was his story. So I would encourage you to sit with someone or connect to me. Let's hear your story under the story. Let's hear why you do what you do. This is really what's interesting for most people. And then let's use everything you've got because using that is often going to get you media and at least a good start, a good running start that perhaps you might not have gotten before.
That's great, Jill. And I'm just going to put a tangential plug for Mimrin in here, which, as far as I know, is the only CRM that asks you to describe your origin story because it is such a powerful story. And I think most people don't really develop it and don't share it. And that really kind of deflates. If they're just talking about, hey, I'm an instructional designer, here's the 18 ways that instructional design can help you. We're not ready to listen to that until we know why you're the Batman of instructional design, if you will, right? We want to hear that origin
Love
story.
that. The Batman of instructional design. We'll have to remember that one for next time. I love
Jill, you mentioned something earlier about conscious acts of kindness. And one of the things that occurred to me was, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing all the time? Not just, randomly here and there. Tell me about how you got so focused on kindness in your kindness circles.
Well, let me just say, yeah, one would think that's what we're supposed to be doing, but I think people are so wrapped up sometimes in their own whatever it is they're doing and their own stories, speaking of stories, that sometimes we forget. It's a human thing and it's a beautiful focus that every day you say, what's one act I could do today to help someone to be kinder? It really can be so simple as a smile, as a letting someone pass in traffic who's obviously stressed out, as holding the door for someone, as checking on your neighbor. I have a 90-year-old neighbor next door and I check on her, and I come over with a little fruit or some fun things. And then she brings me baked goods, which I really love. But the point is that all started because one day she fell in her driveway. And I'm like, oh my gosh, let me help you. And then I brought her food for the next several days because she couldn't move around a lot and she does live alone. These are just simple things like, do you know your neighbor? When's the last time you actually connected to them? I think that's something we miss a lot in our very fast-paced world. And what got me started was a woman that I actually was helping, over 30-year friend who, was aging, and I helped her in her aging journey and literally would go over and bring her lunch or take her out to go to the doctors, or I was the one she called when she fell. And one day she said to me, you're really kind. And wouldn't it be nice if we have a new currency? She said, this is her words, the currency of kindness. And I went, Oh my gosh, I love that. And wouldn't that be a great thing? And so next thing I know, my publisher, who published many of my other books, I said, let's do another one. And they called it The Profit of Kindness, and it's done really well and been all over the media. I'm very blessed by it. And so then I started these kindness circles. And in fact, in the kindness circles, we get together once a month and we be kind to each other. It's just a 1 hour interactive, fun networking piece where I often have a speaker. And for World Kindness Day, I'm going to have Jack Canfield. I'm super excited. It's completely free and it's at jilllublin.com/kindness circles. And I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. So come join us and let's all practice kindness together.
I love that. And it's funny because your neighbor was talking about a new kind of currency. And I think kindness is the original human currency.
Of
We've just
course,
gotten away from it sometimes.
yeah, and that's one of the things in the circle is we really presence it again just for an hour once a month, and it's amazing. And you know what else? People are doing business with each other because they're in a special environment where it is encouraged. And I think if you come from that place, people are going to notice, and kind companies get great publicity. Just saying.
That's right. Well, Jill, thanks so much for sharing your story and your tips. Where can people find out more if they want to connect with you?
Well, thank you. I actually created a free publicity action guide for you, and it's the opportunity to get more great PR tips and do a free publicity masterclass with me. So that is, and that's live, by the way, a free publicity masterclass. You go to jilllublin.com/guide, and that's where you can find everything. It'd be great to be with you.
Awesome. And of course, if you're on the move or in your car or whatever, we'll have all those links in the show notes. Thanks so much, Jill. Cheers. Thanks for listening. Drop an iTunes review or a review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you've got a friend who would benefit from this episode, let them know about it. If you've got a friend who wouldn't benefit from this episode, but you just haven't talked to for a while, now's a great time to give them a call. Thanks for listening. Until next time.